Hi everyone and welcome to another video. This morning I wanted to go for a ride. I went for my black shoes and I found out this. Oh yes, the cleats are running very low and I thought it was a good time for me, yes, of course, to change them and also do a specific video on how to place the cleats. This is the opportunity to give the cleat position a standalone video because the subject is so important that it deserves to be treated properly. I believe that in this instance it's less personal preference and more finding the correct position for you to push as hard as you can on the pedals and at the same time avoid problems on your feet and any discomfort that the wrong position for the cleats could generate. And spoiler, wrong position, at least in my mind, is cleats too far forward. Right, first of all, I need to stress out that this is not my fault, it's Shimanos' fault. Yes, because when you buy a new set of pedals, Shimano very kindly give you a set of cleats to put on your shoes. Somehow, and I think this has been already pointed out by a few users, the cleats you get into the pedals packaging are of a much less quality than the replacement cleats that you buy aftermarket. The plastic itself seems to be of a much lesser quality. Yeah, I was surprised how fast they wear out. But yes, I understand economy first. Luckily for today's ride, I had another pair of RC7 Shimano, my really favorite shoes, with decent cleats. Then yeah, I use this one. Yes, I watched so many videos on how to position the cleats and I translated this with my own experience and coming from other sports with my own idea of the movement and physiology. What happens is that people get their first pair of road shoes, they set the cleats more or less in the middle and they start riding. At the beginning you do have a lot of pressure in understanding how to clip and unclip, and my fear is that a lot of us leave the cleats as they are, the body adjusts to that position even if it's not the most ideal one. And the best advice I've seen in the Bike Fit Tuesdays videos with Francis Cade and Bike Fit James, where I first heard that a backwards position of the cleats on the shoes, it was by far the best to avoid any problem and give you a stable platform to push the pedals. And I tried myself and I found it extremely comfortable, and straight away I could push harder on the same segments. I was pushing one or two gears, higher gears than before, and it was a game changer. Also, Neil Stanbury, that collaborates with Cam Nichols, fantastic bike fitter as well, is on the same advice. But I still find a lot of other videos where they advise something of a more middle position, essentially leave the axle spindle between the first and the fifth metatarsal. I personally believe that the axle should be behind the fifth metatarsal, and that will give you the best position to push hard. And this is because, very simply, that you cannot push hard on the bike, on the pedals, if your ankle is not locked. With the cleat far forward, you will inevitably use a bit too much of an ankling. It will be recruiting unnecessarily a lot of work from the calf and the pointing down, breaking the isometric work of your tibialis muscle and of course the calves. It's good to say, yes, the cleats have to be backwards to reach a stability, but when you are there, how do you actually understand whether your cleats are forward or they are in the correct position? And to me, a quick and simple exercise can be performed on a set of stairs. You position your foot, the forward part of the foot, and you try to understand when moving forward and backwards, you will feel the pressure on the whole area here, or moving the foot forward, i.e. the axle spindle backwards, where you find that while you push, you can almost lift the front toes. That means that the pressure is loaded on the mid part of the foot and not loaded on the front part of the foot. Another element, of course, is the muscles on your lower leg. Extremely important. This muscle, when you push hard on the pedal and impact the pedal, they have to work isometrically. That means that the front tibialis, which is this muscle here, and the calves will need to be both locked to maintain the stable ankle, to make sure that the more pressure gets driven through the foot. And again, on the stairs, you can try to position your foot and lift the whole body and try to understand how easier or harder it is to lift or sustain the whole weight of your body using the foot placement that you prefer, driving the full power to the pedal. Very simple. If you are pointing the toes, that means that you are like this. You will feel that the front muscle, the front tibialis, straight away disengage, and it's much harder to bear the weight in a similar position. Once you understand what you need to look for in terms of leg muscle engagement and stability sensation of your foot when you press hard on the pedals, then you can start positioning the cleats on the shoe, and you move the cleats until you find the same sensation when you pedal. In my particular instance, I reached those sensations when the spindle is in line or maybe slightly behind the fifth metatarsal. You can fit your shoes, you find the position of your big knuckle, as you want to call, the first metatarsal and the fifth. You put a line with some tape, and you can check on newish cleats. Most of them will have a mark, a little notch, in this case for Shimano cleats, to show where the axle spindle is going to be in relation to the cleat. Considering also the natural camber of the shoes that put you already in this position, the axle spindle comes out around here, more or less. So in my case, as you can see, it's not in between the two metatarsal, but in line with the fifth, or maybe slightly backwards. It is a game changer because at the same time relieves the pressure from the toes. So your toes do not grab the front of the shoe because the pressure will be really on the ball of your foot. Same concept where the martial art kick, they push really hard on this section when they hit. And this is extremely linked to the saddle height, because you do adjust the saddle height to actually keep the pressure on the pedal and not breaking the ankle lock that you have achieved with this exercise. We set the saddle height to make sure that you can push the pedal as hard as you can. And to me, saddle too high and cleats too far forward are really your worst enemy for power and comfort at the same time. You break the ankle lock and you can't press as hard as you can where you need the power. It's like squatting on the tiptoes or deadlifting without having a firm platform to push. If we are looking from outside, I can understand you guys saying, oh, for example, Mathieu van der Poel is a toe pointer, because from the outside it might look like he's actually pointing the toes when he pedals. But this might be because, first of all, some shoes have already some camber in the sole to put you in a slightly more aggressive position. Then your body also would be forward. If you do feel still the same lock, but maybe at a different angle, that doesn't mean that you're actually pointing the foot. As long as you keep the lock between the front tibialis and the calf throughout the power phase of the pedal stroke, you're not pointing the toe, you're using the full power, but maybe in a slightly different and more forward position. The second aspect that we need to look into that is not only the position of the cleats, but also the angle. Most of the advice that you see mention to look for your natural walking position, or maybe dangling your legs while sitting on the table, to find where your toes naturally point, if they're neutral, the point in or the point out. And I don't think it is relevant for the way that we need to position the cleats. When we are walking, or when we are standing, or where we have the feet dangling down, we are not pushing hard on the bike, we're not pedaling. In that moment, you're not exerting the power, you're not in an aggressive position on the bike. In that moment, if you look at your feet, you will not be using the same angle. You will position your feet in a powerful position, in a bit more aggressive position, and also changing the angle to recruit the muscle and push forward. This is why I think that the angle of your cleats needs to be adjusted, not thinking of a neutral position or not loaded position, but something considering the effort that you're going to go on the bike. And you can simply try to push hard on a surface and put yourself in a slight angle to see whether your toes will still be at the same angle or will move. That's why traditionally the position of the feet of the cyclist is usually slightly inwards, because most of us, when it's time to push hard, will move the foot to recruit the muscle to the maximum effort. It's something that you will need to try to replicate and ride on the bike until you find the best solution for you. I never moved from yellow cleats because I think that if you do change position on the bike quite a lot while riding on the tops, or maybe a big effort on the drops, you will need more float than blue or red cleats, where they offer much less movement. Sometimes when you are riding a bit more up front, your feet will tend to go maybe more straight or even wider. When you put yourself down on the drops, you might slightly rotate inwards. And having cleats like the Shimano yellow ones, to me, is the most comfortable position, because you can naturally allow some movement depending on the position you ride on the bike. Start with a straight position, so I go full back and I try to maintain an alignment within the balls to make sure they are more or less in a straight line. When you pedal on the bike and you concentrate on the movement, you will feel that if you haven't positioned them correctly, you will reach the end of the float in one direction, you don't have any more space, and you will feel that you are pedaling more like this, too much inwards, too much pigeon-toed, and you will need to find a slight change to make sure that you are pedaling in between your floats, so you do have enough movement on one side to another. If I have to move the cleats, for example, if my toe is too much pointed inwards, I hold the cleat with the hand, and it's like I'm trying to move the shoe in one direction. And when I replicate the movement here, I remember what direction the cleat will need to be moved. So I'll slightly undo the bolt, and I will move the cleat slightly and retighten. Then you try on the bike and see whether you are in a neutral position and you have slight float on one side to another. Yes, I'm very passionate about this topic. I really believe that a lot of cyclists can still benefit from good positioning. I'm very happy with the results I have on the bike. Let me know in the comments. Of course, I will try to answer to all your questions and suggestions. If I got this completely wrong, feel free to let me know, and we will discuss later in the comments. Thank you again for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Ciao!